Hi, and welcome to day 4 of the Sustainable Brands Conference. It's been an awesome, another jam-packed day of great presentations. We were also celebrating today World Oceans Day and also World Accreditation Day, which I hadn't realised existed, so very apt for the last day of the conference. The day was full of great presentations. Kicking off the day was a presentation from IKEA, from their group sustainability manager. IKEA's always been doing some really good work in the sustainability arena, but they've just launched today a new sustainability strategy now to take them through for their next part of their journey. In that journey, what they're aiming to be is a zero waste organisation. They're also looking at zero emissions for their home delivery service. So that's quite awesome. He then went on to talk about his balls, his meatballs versus his veggie balls. The veggie balls that they've brought out are actually a third of the carbon footprint of the traditional meatballs, which a lot of people that go to IKEA often actually go for the food. Surprisingly, food revenue is actually between 6 to 12% of their overall revenue. And he said that they do have a lot of families that just go at the weekend, go to the cafe, have a family meal and leave without actually purchasing any homeware. And he said the food aspect's really important to a lot of their consumers. But of course, the meatballs have always been one of the most popular and are a very popular Swedish dish. So he said in their transition to trying to encourage more consumers to consider plant-based proteins, they're also looking at things like insects and algae and bringing on a whole other sort of range of different types of foods for their cafes, particularly around the world, with dishes relevant to the certain areas. And the other thing he talked about was that IKEA have had a lot of work in the last few years on product design, looking at obviously packaging of product, but another whole new range they're bringing out is actually to encourage people to grow foods, seeds, herbs at home, and home germination kits that sit on windowsills, much larger displays for more like salad leaves and things like that. So that's a whole new kind of area that IKEA are focusing on. So it was a really good presentation. In the afternoon, we had a presentation from a guy called Minto Ray from an organisation called the Social Paper Print, and the topic was C-suite decision making. And a couple of useful things I took away from his presentation was, he said, role play the FAQs when you're going into that organisation. Try and think ahead of what they're going to ask you. And I know it sounds obvious, and in sales we're sort of told to do that. But he said actually do role play it through and think what that organisation's likely to ask you. He also was talking about when people ask you for your elevator pitch. He said often people will describe what you could find out anywhere if you looked at their resume or CV. He said actually with your elevator pitch you should talk about what your mission is and start with that. And he said it's a much nicer, far more powerful intro. And then tell us who are the Canadian, I guess, version of a Vodafone or a Spark. Great presentation from their team, and they were talking about how they've linked sustainability incentives into the performance pay of not just their C-suite, but of all senior managers. And he said it's really helping to drive behavioural change. And I think we're going to start to see a lot more of that. Then at the end of the day, when the conference sort of wrapped up, it was people felt quite sad actually that it was over. But I had signed up for a tour that they ran, which was Hives of Humanity, and we got to go right downtown into Vancouver, and were hosted by an organisation that's been setting up beehives in various locations, very sort of in industrial areas, in very built up, using disused council land. And the one in particular that we spent quite a bit of time from, we actually had a go at beekeeping. So we dismantled the hive, we took out some honey, and just sort of learned a bit about hives for humanity. But it's great because they're actually employing people from community to help in the centres. So there's a real sense of engagement with these projects and pride from people who are living on the streets but who are going there to have a sense of worth and to feel engaged in something positive that they can be doing in their community. So it was really very rewarding experience, and I thoroughly enjoyed doing that. So that's the wrap up of Sustainable Brands Conference. There's loads more. It's my first attempt at vlogging, so very open to feedback or any comments on it, so that if I were to do it again, it could be better. So so thanks very much, and thanks for listening.